Salam, where he was informed of the charges. Tato Letsaba reports.
John Heche's lawyer Hekima Mwasipu says it's unclear when he will appear in court. Heche was arrested ahead of last week's elections, denounced by opposition as shame. President Samia Suluhu Hassan was sworn in on Monday after being declared the winner with 98% of votes. Chadima's chairperson Tundu Lissu remains in detention on treason charges, which he denies. Yesterday, the African Union observers said the 2025 Tanzania general elections did not comply with AU principles, normative frameworks, international obligations and standards for democratic elections.
All eyes are on Cameroon's capital Yaoundé as President Paul Biya prepares to be inaugurated today for an eighth year term, extending his 43-year rule. The ceremony comes amid ongoing political tensions with opposition parties rejecting the results of the October 12 election and calling for nationwide protests and lockdowns. Political analyst Paul Anchang.
What we're seeing really is in pockets of resistance where the opposition has electoral circumscriptions and controls of those electoral circumscriptions. We've seen more the government try to get into consultations and talks with a lot of the transporters and a lot of the populations. Day-to-day, those who do the regular day-to-day jobs, I would say in the markets, the buyers, the sellers in the markets, those who do the transportations, especially from the north, the corridors of the north. We've seen the government enter into negotiation and consultation talks with them where they can provide them security in terms of the transportation of their trucks from corridors, especially if they go towards Chad and the Central African Republic. So therefore, we're seeing a gradual return to normalcy. So we don't anticipate, in terms of the proceedings and the oath-taking ceremony today, a major change.
South African political parties and independent candidates contesting the 2026 local government elections may face shorter campaign broadcasts. The Independent Communications Authority, CASA, is proposing a reduction in the length of political election broadcasts from 50 seconds to 40 seconds. CASA has released draft amendments to the regulations and is inviting the public to comment until the 9th of January next year. Councillor Ntombiza Sithole is the chairperson of the Committee on Election Regulations at ICASA.
So in reducing the length of a slot to 40 seconds, the authority increased the total number of political election broadcast slots from 10 to 12 slots per day. This increase was due to the ever-changing political climate and the increasing of political parties contesting for the election as well as the independent candidates.
Egypt's Foreign Tourism and Antiquities Minister Khalid Al-Enani is set to be confirmed as head of UNESCO today. This is despite criticism from heritage groups that he had failed to protect cultural treasures at his home, such as Cairo's City of the Dead. Enani was elected last month by UNESCO's 58-member executive board, with 55 votes, beating Erdogan Femin Matoko of Congo-Brazzaville. His appointment as the first Arab Director General of the UN Cultural and Education Agency will be put to a formal confirmation vote of all 194 member states at the agency's General Conference in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. And finally, world leaders are gathering in the Brazilian city of Belém ahead of the United Nations COP30 climate conference, which gets underway next week. This is part of an effort to show that climate change remains a top priority. The BBC's Justin Rowlett has the details.
Faith in the UN climate process is low. Only a few dozen heads of state are expected at today's summit, with the leaders of China, India and the United States, who together produce about half of global emissions, absent. The US is pulling out of the Paris Agreement, and the UN admits the latest national carbon-cutting pledges fall short. Even Secretary General Antonio Guterres has conceded the 1.5-degree goal will likely soon be breached.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News, the African perspective.
In our sports headline, Bafana Bafana coach has named his 22-man squad to face Zambia. Elena Rybakina is still unbeaten at the ongoing WTA finals. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Well, thank you to Jwalani Tulongwepe with our news updates and Figileni Ngwati with our sports headlines. It is 12:07 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's Audio Bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Where Africa's voices rise with stories that matter, we lead the conversation.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Well, Sudanese on #Africa Update asks today, Sudanese people are bearing the brunt from the war in Sudan, with many trying to flee al-Fasher. Now, our question to you today is, what can Africa do to stop the wars on the continent? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Update us.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:09 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The South African government has confirmed the extradition of Siyabonga Gezani Ndimande and Malusi Dave Ndimande from Eswatini. The brothers are accused of murdering musician AKA and his friend Tebelo Mutswane. They are expected to return to South Africa next week, Tuesday, to face trial. Terence Manasseh is the spokesperson to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Development.
The breakthrough was achieved through sustained cooperation between South Africa and the Kingdom of Eswatini. The breakthrough was achieved through sustained cooperation between South Africa and the Kingdom of Eswatini, guided by SADC extradition and mutual legal assistance frameworks. Legal and diplomatic teams ensured that due process was followed in this regard while respecting the sovereignty of the kingdom. And this ultimately led to the withdrawal of the appeal by the accused. This withdrawal in itself, assisted in this regard. And the ministry will continue to strengthen regional partnerships to expedite future extraditions, particularly in high-profile cross-border cases. The extradition process is being managed in close coordination between the department, the SAPS, and the National Prosecuting Authority. The pair are expected to arrive in South Africa on the 11th of November, where they will be formally handed over to the SAPS. And upon their return, they will be held in a secure facility in KZN, pending their first court appearance, which will be confirmed by the NPA once logistical and procedural formalities have been completed. The safety and security of all persons in custody, including these Ndimande brothers, is a priority of law enforcement authorities. The SAPS and the correctional services have robust security measures in place to manage especially high-profile detainees and ensure their protection. The case is receiving the necessary attention from all relevant agencies to ensure that justice is pursued fairly, transparently, and in accordance with the law. The charges include murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. These charges arise from that fatal shooting of Keenan, aka Fox, and Tebelo Mutswane. The prosecution will outline the full details of the charges during the court proceedings.
And that is Terence Manasseh, the spokesperson to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Development.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A harmonized and rights-based legal framework that seeks to advance labor migration governance across Africa has moved another step closer to implementation. Parliamentarians, regional bodies and social partners from across Africa are debating on the model law on labor migration in Africa at the 6th Ordinary Session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament in Johannesburg, South Africa, in an effort to refine the framework designed to improve access to social protection and across the continent. Nhlanhla Mahlangu has more.
The model law on labor migration is a legislative framework developed by the Pan-African Parliament to help African Union member states create or revise their national laws to better protect the rights of migrant workers. It is designed to harmonize national legislation with international labor standards, ensuring fair recruitment, protection of rights, and access to social protection for migrant workers across Africa. The draft is being refined through consultations with various stakeholders and is expected to be finalized and adopted by the Pan-African Parliament. PEP Committee on Trade, Customs and Immigration Matters Chair John Bideri says labor migration is a powerful driver of regional integration and development, but only when governed in a way that protects dignity, rights and opportunity.
Labor migration is a defining feature of Africa integration and socio-economic transformation. Every year, millions of Africans move in search of employment and decent livelihoods. However, national laws governing recruitment, social protection, and mobility remain fragmented. Migrant workers often experience discrimination, unsafe conditions, and weak access to justice. The deplorable and worrying situation of migrants, including migrant workers, in many host countries who are reported to face violations of labor and other rights of migrant workers, xenophobia attacks on migrants, and arbitrary expulsions highlight the challenges to achieving decent work, equal treatment, and the protection of human rights, including labor rights.
Alexio Musindo, Director for the Decent Work Team for Eastern and Southern Africa at the International Labour Organization, has commended the Pan-African Parliament for its commitment to support the adoption of the model law on labour migration.
Allow me to commend the Pan-African Parliament for its leadership and vision in advancing this crucial framework. The achievements reflect not only the Parliament's dedication to workers' rights and social justice, but also its determination to translate continental aspirations into practical instruments that improve people's lives. Labour migration, when governed effectively, can be a powerful driver for inclusive growth, regional integration, and sustainable development across the continent.
Professor Marius Oliver from the Nelson Mandela University in South Africa says the model law will enhance labour migration and governance across the continent.
This model law is meant to serve as a legal tool and as a guiding framework for AU member states in managing international labour migration in an effective, harmonised and coordinated manner. Of course, this law has to be domesticated in whatever form the countries would like to have it adopted. The model law combines human rights, but also inclusive of fundamental labour rights and developmental and gender-based approaches. It supports concrete action by ILO constituents, Pan-African Parliament and other stakeholders on the promotion and implementation of AU, REX, and international legal instruments and policy frameworks, including but not limited to ILO international labour standards.
The draft model law on labour migration in Africa is currently being debated at the PEP plenary for consideration and adoption. It will subsequently be recommended to the AU policy organs, and it is anticipated to undergo extensive advocacy for domestication by AU member states. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
It is 16 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
A staff member from Save the Children in Sudan's Al Fasher has recounted the horrors that people are going through. Our 52-year-old Umran, not his real name, has been working in Sudan for 10 years and says he will never forget the bodies on the streets. Umran describes the scenes of violence and loss when fighting engulfed the city last week. Many fled on foot, trying to escape the artillery that was coming from all directions. He has described what is happening in Al Fasher as a massacre and says families are starving. And for more on this, we are joined on the line by Odette Ntambara, a Director of Advocacy, Campaigns, Communications and Media for Save the Children. Odette, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, just reading this intro and going through it and, you know, trying to visualize exactly what has unfolded and what has been seen. You know, it's Umran has really seen the most, and he's not the only one on the ground who has had this type of experience. Are your staff members in Al Fasher safe? And how are they holding up?
Yes, so the humanitarian context right now, it's really dire in regards to aid workers operating in such extreme risks when we talk about Al Fasher and we talk about other regions as well, like the South Kordofan. So we do have a team on the ground in Tawila that have been responding to the massive influx of displaced communities. And they're really trying to support in the sense of psychosocial support to a lot of families. But at the same time, as you rightly mentioned, they themselves are going through what is something that is not anticipated in regards to having to take care of yourself and at the same time taking care of others. We are running mobile clinics where we are receiving individuals who are having limbs, who have broken limbs, have scars, and this is something that our staff in the field have to look at every day. And also some of them have family members, extended family members in these conflict affected areas. So there's a lot of psychosocial and trauma that comes with being an aid worker in such a situation.
And how do you then deal with it as an aid worker on the ground, seeing just what you've described, and I must apologize to some of our sensitive viewers and listeners with regards to the descriptive, response that we've gotten from Odette with regards to painting that picture, a visual picture of what is really unfolding in Al Fasher in Sudan. Odette, how do you then, as an aid worker on the ground, as you mentioned, the fact that not only are you trying to be counselor or a psychologist to the families and individuals who are coming in to your centers, but also to your co-workers as individuals?
It's not an easy position or a situation to be thrown into. Aid workers are doing so much in regards to supporting families and civilians are paying the highest price in this conflict. And civilians in this case also include aid workers. So as an organization, we try as much as possible from the country office here in Port Sudan, as that's where I'm based, to support our frontline colleagues who are working tirelessly with the local communities as well as volunteers. And the best we can do right now is obviously continue to advocate and raise awareness of the situation that they are having to work under, and appeal for the demand of accountability on attacks on civilians, and also appeal for an immediate cessation of violence. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we are deeply concerned by the growing reports of injuries and killings and abductions that we're hearing across the news. And this is just unacceptable. There is a humanitarian law here that is being not abided to. And so this is the support that we can do for those who are responding on the front line to ensure that we continue to raise awareness and demand for accountability.
And just in wrapping up, Odette, what has happened to the people that are not able to escape or flee?
Sadly, there's still about 260,000 individuals in El Fasher. Around 130 of them are children who are still trapped in very dire conditions where there is no access to escape. And again, what we can do as a community, as an international community, is to continue urging those states with power, with influence, to demand safe passage for those who want to leave, and also demand for humanitarian access for aid workers to come in and be able to support with the immediate needs, which are really food and water at this point.
Well, Odette, we have run out of time and are going to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much.
That's Odette Ndambara, Director of Advocacy Campaigns, Communications and Media for Save the Children Sudan, joining us on the line.
Ready to connect, innovate, and be inspired? It's all happening at Africa's Tech Festival, where Africa's technology meets the world. From the 10th to the 13th of November in Cape Town, join global leaders, investors, and innovators driving the future of Africa's digital economy. Don't miss the continent's biggest week in tech. Get your pass now at africatechfestival.com.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 24 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The United States President Donald Trump is monitoring the situation in Nigeria. This comes days after Trump made threats to initiate military action against the West African country over religious violence against Christians. Now, the U.S. administration has also added the country back to a countries of particular concern, a list of nations that they say have violated religious freedoms, which include countries such as China, North Korea, and Russia. Nigeria, however, still denies all claims of Christian persecution. Bunolo Maribe, Faltes.
The White House says that U.S. President Donald Trump is closely monitoring the situation in Nigeria. For over a decade, the West African nation has faced severe attacks from groups such as Boko Haram and the Islamic State West Africa province, resulting in thousands of deaths. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt elaborated more on the U.S.'s position.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, may take action to wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, especially against innocent women and children. I can assure you the President of the United States is watching this situation unfold very closely, as is our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
However, Nigerian Foreign Minister Yusuf Tukur has denied the allegations of religious persecution.
Nigeria's constitutional commitment to religious freedom and rule of law. All the answers are in there. And this is what guides us. And this is what shows that it's impossible for there to be a religious persecution that can be supported in any way, shape, or form by the government of Nigeria at any level.
Meanwhile, in northern Kaduna, one of Nigeria's states most affected by violence involving both Muslims and Christians, leading Muslim cleric Ahmed Gumi says Trump's comments risk escalating tensions.
It's coming to be like between Muslims and Christians. Even though there are a lot of Christians who have known that the narrative is wrong, it's a representation of reality on ground. Many Christians know that. So Nigeria should reciprocate whatever the tune of Trump's allegations are, because he did it not in a diplomatic way.
Gumi further says that this could strain Nigeria's relations with the United States.
So the best thing now is for Nigeria to warn the President of America and tell him to retract his threat, because it's a direct threat, even ordering the Pentagon to be ready to attack Nigeria for what? The President should retract such, or else we sever our relationship with America until when Americans will have the sense to elect a president that is civil.
Trump's stance has since raised concerns in Nigeria over religion and sovereignty, with questions rising about what the US's intervention could mean for the West African nation. Bonolo Maribe, SBC News.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix. Leo tujadili kuhusu chipukizi wanaoimba nyimbo za wasanii wengine. Unadhani hili linatokana na nini, Omari?
Nadhani kweli kwamba tukizama muziki ya sasa, hasa wasanii ambao ni chipukizi, kwa kweli kwamba yani karibu kutoka muziki yao wenyewe, lakini wanakuwa wanapenda kuhubiria muziki ya zamani, hizo muziki ya wengine ambazo ni hivyo.
Wengine wanadai kufanya hivyo ni kupromote vipaji vyao haraka ili waweze kujulikana. Je, yawezekana kukawa na ukweli wowote au ndio kukosa kabisa kipaji cha kuandika mistari?
Ndio, unaona kwamba msanii anapoazimia kwamba kuchukua wimbo mwingine wa msanii mwingine na kurudilia mara mbili sivyo, haionyeshi kwamba yani ndio wanaanza kazi ya muziki aizani, lakini ukiangalia kabisa asilimia kubwa utakuja kuona kwamba wanakosa ile mawazo ya kutunga muziki.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
It is 29 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Our news headlines up next with Jwalani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, the deputy leader of Tanzania's main opposition party, Chadema, is facing terrorism charges 2 weeks after his arrest in the capital, Dodoma. All eyes are on Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, as President Paul Biya prepares to be inaugurated today for an 8th-year term, extending his 43-year rule. And finally, South Africa's Health Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, says all citizens deserve quality health care, regardless of their socio-economic status. Motsoaledi was speaking at the G20 Health Minister meeting in Polokwane in the Limpopo province. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports. On Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Now, sports headline, we kick off with football news. Bafana head coach Hugo Broos has named his 22-man squad for the international friendly against Zambia, scheduled to take place in Gqeberha on the 15th of November. Broos has stuck to the bulk of his 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying squad that has done duty in recent months, with several foreign-based players called up despite the friendly nature of the fixture. Aside from Sekhukhune United star midfielder Keletso Makhalwa, all departments remain consistent, with the Belgian explaining that he's focused on preparing for next month's Africa Cup of Nations. Bafana will face Zambia at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium on the 15th of November in the final FIFA international window of the year, before the AFCON kicks off in Morocco on the 21st of December 2025. And the CAF head of TV and communications, Luxolo September, has raised excitement ahead of the upcoming Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. The continent's premier tournament, featuring 24 national teams, will run from the 21st of December to the 80th of January across 6 host cities, with the final set for the Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium in Rabat. September says fans can expect a breathtaking showpiece as Africa's best compete for continental glory.
We are not sleeping. We're working 7 days a week, and I've been to all the stadiums. Actually, I went to the stadiums last week. I visited about 6 of the 9 stadiums, and so much is happening there. By the way, there's so much positive energy, and if you see the infrastructure there, I'm telling you, the stadium that will host the opening match of AFCON is better than some of the stadiums you've seen in Qatar for the World Cup. I tell you the truth, you just need to go inside and see the finishing, the touches that are there. It makes me very proud to be African.
There has been several spin-offs from the previous edition held in Cote d'Ivoire early last year, that's according to September.
I think African football is enjoying unprecedented success. And I think obviously all these things come at the back of a very successful AFCON, which has really transformed and changed the face of African football forever. And I think we are on a path that is not just exciting, it's a journey that is inspiring for all of us as Africans to see our football finally. I mean, we've always known African football is exciting as fans, as people who are Africans. But we've also known that African football doesn't get its fair share in the commercial world.
On to tennis news. Elena Rybakina completed a clean sweep of a group at the WTA finals with a straightforward victory over late call-up Ekaterina Alexandrova. The 6th seed, who sealed her progression to the semi-finals on Monday, continued her momentum with a 6-4, 6-4 win in Riyadh. The Kazakh had been due to play Madison Keys, but the American, who could not advance, withdrew just hours before the start of the match because of illness. Alexandrova was the second alternate, but received the nod after fellow Russian and first option Mira Andreeva, who is also competing in a doubles in Riyadh, declared she was not fit to play. Let's end with golf news. We tee off with Rory McIlroy saying he received a lovely message from the boss of the PGA of America following the abuse he and his wife Erica suffered at the hands of some American fans at the Ryder Cup. The Masters champion added he took it as a compliment that he was the target of the rowdy US supporters, and it galvanized the European team during their 15-13 victory at Bethpage. The Masters champion has confirmed he received the message. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figureli Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good morning, I'm Nosipho Zuma. In your business news this hour, this Responsible Gambling Month in South Africa, a new report has revealed that financial desperation is driving cash-strapped South Africans towards high-risk gambling as a perceived income solution. Now, Just Money's inaugural Money and Me survey found that those learning or earning less than $286 per month are 4 times more likely to choose online gambling over safer cost-cutting options. Experts are now cautioning that this reckless behavior quickly leads to debt, strained relationships, and job loss. Just Money's Sarah Nicholson says they are advocating for low-risk alternatives like side hustles and stricter budgeting.
We saw that gambling is actually seen as a income-stretching option for many of those people who can actually least afford it. So what this month is really doing is just highlighting the importance of ensuring that you're educated, understand the risks of gambling, and really making sure that if it is something that someone is struggling with, that you have some way and understanding of how to actually get some help towards that.
Vibe coding has been named as a Collins English Dictionary word for the year. It means using AI to generate code for a website or app by explaining in regular language what is required. The method can allow people who can't code to start creating digital products. The BBC's Zoe Kleinman explains.
ChatGPT code me an app showing the latest movie reviews with the option to vote on the best and worst current movies and comment on them.
Sure thing. I'll give you a little starting point in code form. Let's say we're doing this as a...
That is vibe coding. It's not a faultless technique, and there's no guarantee the code will actually work or be free of bugs. My movie app code was created in seconds, although it would take me considerably longer to check it and fix any problems. The term vibe coding was coined by Andrej Karpathy, the former director of AI at Tesla.
Nissan Motor moved back to an operating profit in the second quarter on reporting its best quarterly result in more than a year due to efforts to reduce fixed costs as part of its turnaround plan and stronger sales in North America. Nissan booked $342 million in operating profit for July-September, up 61% from $208 million a year earlier. The result follows a first quarter operating loss and marked its best single quarter finish since a $585 million profit in the final quarter of fiscal 2023. The real estate arm of Doha's sovereign wealth fund, Qatari Dia, will invest $29.7 billion in a luxury development including golf courses and marinas on Egypt's Mediterranean coast. The development aims to turn Alam AI Room and an undeveloped 7-kilometer stretch of coastline 480 kilometers northwest of Cairo into a year destination that will attract tourists and will also have luxury neighborhoods, schools, university, and government facilities. Egypt has for years been pushing to secure foreign investments, especially from wealthy Gulf states, as it seeks to tackle heavy foreign debts and a gaping budget deficit. Your financial indicators: one US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,440 naira, and Botswana is 13 pula 35. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 26, and in Zambia is 22 kwacha 37. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 38. Russia is 81 rubles 18. India is 88 rupees 65. China at 7 yuan 13. And in South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 13. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,012 and platinum at $1,567 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $64.23 a barrel. Now, for any business news stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipho Zuma.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you to Nosipo Zuma with our business news. It is 12:42 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our Senate Republicans rejected President Donald Trump's push to terminate the filibuster to end the longest government shutdown in history, a rare rebuff from a Congress that has mostly shown him loyalty. The filibuster would allow the Senate to pass bills with a simple majority. The U.S. government shutdown has become the longest in American history, breaking the previous record set during Trump's first term. Reuters' Ryan Brooks has more.
Speaking at a White House breakfast, Trump said the shutdown was partly to blame for a string of election victories for Democrats the night before, and told the room full of Republican senators to end the deadlock.
If you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans.
Democrats in Congress are demanding an extension of Affordable Care Act tax credits that would stop health insurance rates from spiking. Republicans, however, are refusing to tie the extension of those tax credits to their funding bill and do not have the 60 votes they need to move it forward. Meanwhile, food aid recipients, air traffic controllers, and federal workers have been caught in the crossfire. Stephanie Rogers, a microbiologist with the Food and Drug Administration in Colorado, is one of them. She was furloughed on October 1st and has spoken to Reuters and other media outlets about the difficulties she's encountered since.
You know, I'm struggling. My children are struggling. Our relationships are struggling. It's hard to balance everything.
Rogers is a single mother who finds herself raiding her 401k, rationing groceries, and juggling overdue bills. Her state unemployment claim was denied because of an error. Federal workers are eligible, but the glitch could take weeks to fix.
I can't pay my bills. I don't know how to balance my bills because how long are we going to go determines how long my money will last. My daughter has a medication that she's on a daily basis, and I have to consider that, and I have to worry about that too, and how am I going to pay for the appointment and the medication and everything else, and that's not a place a mom likes to be in. So it's hard.
The shutdown is a test for Trump, who faces declining popularity. At the day's White House gathering, he called on Republicans to abolish the filibuster, saying it was the only way to pass their bill, as it would only require a simple majority of 51 Senate seats.
I think it's very important. We have to get the country open.
But in a rare rejection of Trump's demands, it appeared on Wednesday that more than a few Republicans were opposed to scrapping the rule, with Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying, quote, "I know where the math is on this issue in the Senate, and it's not happening."
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So yeah, that's who I am, you know.
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views. Share your opinion. Engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
A newly released chat box aimed at helping people talk about and track abuse was recently launched in South Africa. The app, Gender Rights in Tech, GRIT, is one of the first free AI tools made by African creators to tackle gender-based violence. Founder Leonora Timmer told my colleague Suzanne Paxton that it is an African solution co-designed with African communities.
We had already launched an emergency mobile application in the anti-gender-based violence space that is free and data-free and links survivors with rapid response teams, but also has a vault where people can store evidence and a map of services around the country. But what we were still seeing on our WhatsApp line, even though we were running this technology, is that there was still quite a big disconnect between the criminal justice system and what was happening on the ground and people's understanding of the way our criminal justice system works. And as a result, lots of people were still going to Facebook and posting and tagging and then being served with harassment orders, essentially. And so we went back to the communities that we had originally co-created the first technology in, and we talked about this issue, and we asked people what they thought the solution would be to this problem. A lot of the young people that we spoke to said that it'd be really helpful to have a place where, within technology that they already used, where they could find out about their rights, about the law, about like information that they were looking for that was accurate but spoke in a language that was familiar and didn't make them feel, a certain type of way. Sometimes the way that lawyers speak or the way our criminal justice system speaks can make you feel like you don't belong in that space. And so that's where the premise for the chatbot came from.
Yeah. All right. I see that you are also, you also have experience in gender-based violence in the family, death, and this is also sort of the inspiration behind this.
Yeah. So the original GRIT app was built out of a situation in my ex-husband's family where a 19-year-old was murdered and found on the side of the N2, and she was 9 months pregnant at the time when it happened. And then in helping her family and witnessing her family and him navigate this situation, at that time when it happened, the DNA backlog was also particularly bad, which complicated everything as well. So I really saw how hard it was for people within situations of gender-based violence, and also the stigma and the re-traumatization, and how hard it was to access services as well. And so that's where the original founding idea for GRIT, the organization, came from.
So how does the AI aunt work? Susie, I think you call her.
Zuzi, yes.
Zuzi.
So she is deployed. We're about to re-release our mobile application, and she's deployed on that. That goes out to about 15,000 people use it currently across the country. But she's also deployed over WhatsApp, web-based, and Facebook, with this idea that using platforms that people already use rather than expecting people to come to new platforms. And then she introduces herself as an AI chatbot, talks people through very basically some of the ethics involved with that, what we do with the data, and then is trained to be very chatty and can talk to people about a variation of topics loosely associated with gender-based violence, but including like sexual reproductive health, HIV, access to abortion, and then a lot to do with the criminal justice system, what your rights are, but also just how to navigate relationships. We found that a lot of young people wanted just to talk to her about their relationship and what was normal and how to navigate it and those kind of things.
That was GRIT founder Leonora Timmer speaking to my colleague Suzanne Paxton.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126. And we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Leo tujadili kuhusu chipukizi wanaoimba nyimbo za wasanii wengine. Unadhani hili linatokana na nini, Omari?
Nadhani kweli kwamba tukitazama muziki ya sasa, hasa wasanii ambao ni chipukizi, kwa kweli kwamba karibu kutoka muziki yao wenyewe, lakini wanakuwa wanapenda kuhubiria muziki ya zamani, hizo muziki ya wengine ambao ni hivyo.
Wengine wanadai kufanya hivyo ni kupromote vipaji vyao haraka ili waweze kujulikana. Je, yawezekana kukawa na ukweli wowote au ndio kukosa kabisa kipaji cha kuandika mistari?
Ndio, unaona kwamba msanii anapoazimia kwamba kuchukua wimbo mwingine wa msanii mwingine na kurudilia mara mbili sivyo, haionyeshi kwamba ndio wanaanza kazi ya muziki aidha, lakini ukiangalia kabisa asilimia kubwa utakuja kuona kwamba wanakosa ile mawazo ya kutunga muziki.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:52 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Zoran Mamdani has won New York City's mayoral election, ushering in a new era of democratic politics in America's most populous and wealthiest city. A 34-year-old Mamdani, who was born in Kampala, Uganda, and moved to the United States at the age of 7, will also become the first Muslim mayor of the Big Apple. Running as an outsider, he defeated independent candidate and former state governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. Mamdani's win capped off a very successful night for Democrats that also secured sweeping victories in key governors' races in both the states of New Jersey and Virginia. Sharon Bryce-Peace has more.
Thank you, my friends.
A big night for Democrats in elections across the country, with outsized attention on the New York mayoral race and the historic nature of Tuesday night's result. Listen to New York Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani.
New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City.
Mamdani becomes the youngest person in over a century to lead the largest city in the United States, running on a progressive campaign that placed the affordability crisis at the center of his messaging.
Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election.
Democrats also achieved resounding victories in the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, crushing victories by between 9 and 15 points, securing wins in judicial contests in Pennsylvania and a redistricting battle in California, among other contests. Professor Larry Sabato is director of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia.
It's a Democratic landslide. There's no other way to characterize this. It's a big margin, nearly a landslide margin in New Jersey. It is a landslide margin in Virginia. You know, you expect a party to win places where they have a plurality or a majority of the electorate when the other party's in control of the White House, but not by this margin. So there's a tremendous signal here for Republicans. They won't get it unless Donald Trump gives them permission to get it.
And while President Donald Trump was not on the ballot, Democrats are framing these results as a referendum on his 10 months in office, in the midst of a government shutdown that is now the longest in history, over what has also become a contest around affordability in the healthcare space.
I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good for anybody. But we had an interesting evening, and we learned a lot. If you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. And that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor. But I don't know about that. But I was honored that they said that. We must get the government back open soon and really immediately.
As New Yorkers reacted to a historic victory in their city.
We've been in New York for like 13 years, and this is the first mayor that I'm excited to see come to the city.
It's great to have somebody who's close to our age. It's such a refreshing thing to see somebody who's not, a boomer or, a little bit on the older side. But, yeah, I think his policies are great. He's energetic. He's not afraid to stand up to the system and the president, and I think that's really refreshing.
Zohran is the change that we needed to have in New York City. He is the voice of the people.
As the Democratic Socialist caps a meteoric rise to become one of the most visible Democratic figures in the country, come January next year, Mamdani faces his true test, translating a bold vision into governance. Running a city with a massive bureaucracy, a population of over 8 million, the largest police force in the country, a center of capitalism, and the list goes on. Translating his broad mandate into real change will require a coalition of support from a city council and a state government where not everyone has embraced his socialist vision. But that's for later. For now, a moment to celebrate and soak up the glory that comes with this massive win. I'm Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York.
It is 12:58 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on Channel Africa. Today on Hashtag Africa Update Ask, Sudanese people are bearing the brunt from the war in Sudan, with many trying to flee al-Fasher. Now, our question to you today is, what can Africa do to stop the wars on the continent? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update Asks. And that's how we wrap Africa Update today. Thank you for joining us and continue with us on our socials. Thank you to our team, our producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Dumelo Mukwena, and social media Sfiso Klope and Talent Butelezi. It's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
SABC News.